So the project is an initiative of the Bank of Namibia. We are essentially trying to facilitate financial inclusion through digital payments. And we are trying to make payments more accessible, more affordable, as well as faster, essentially. And we are trying to do this by procuring an instant payment solution. So that's what the project is all about.
99 FM, your inspiration station. This is Skrypt in the afternoon. Now, in a bid to tackle the challenges faced by rural populations in accessing financial services, the Bank of Namibia will launch its highly anticipated instant payment solution. Now, this innovative system marks a significant milestone in the efforts to bridge the gap between the urban and rural financial access. Now, joining me in studio for more insight on the project is Bank of Namibia Director for Strategy, Projects and Transformation, Ms. Valeria Mbango. Welcome to 99 FM.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's dive straight into the instant payment solution. What is the project all about?
So the project is an initiative of the Bank of Namibia. We are essentially trying to facilitate financial inclusion through digital payments. And we are trying to make payments more accessible, more affordable, as well as faster, essentially. And we are trying to do this by procuring an instant payment solution. So that's what the project is all about.
And what would you say prompted the bank to come up with this project? Like, where were the particular market needs or even just global banking trends that you potentially aim to address?
Yeah. So there's quite a number of things that sort of led us to this point. But I would say it would be a combination of domestic market needs as well as global trends. And maybe before I get into the details, I would like to highlight that while this is a Bank of Namibia strategic initiative, it's actually aligning and fitting into key national strategic plans in terms of Vision 2030. If we looked at the Namibia Financial Sector Strategy, as well as the National Payment System Vision 2025 strategy. And maybe just looking at some of the global trends, when we crafted the Vision 2025 strategy with the NPS, this is a strategy that was not only crafted by the regulators, in other words, Bank of Namibia as well as the Payment Association of Namibia, but it was in conjunction with industry as well. So all the banks, all the non-banks and so forth. We observe key megatrends globally. And we try to be aware of this so that we keep ourselves honest, so that we can make sure that our national payment system is responsive to the constantly changing operational environment. But we looked at these key trends that we observed, and then we sort of used them to guide 11 key principles in that strategy. And if I can focus on two of them, the one is around consumer education as well as financial inclusion. And the second one is around interoperability. Those two are key objectives of this specific project. So it's very much aligned to what we're trying to do with the project. And just maybe bringing it closer to home, if you look at Vision 2030, there is a section in there that speaks about our aspirations come 2030 in terms of what does quality of life look like for Namibian people. And part of that chapter, they emphasize on financial inclusion. And again, it's strongly aligned to what the Bank of Namibia is doing. And then maybe lastly, if I look at the financial sector strategy, it's also currently under review. There's key reforms in that strategy, and part of that is also financial inclusion. So there's a very good golden thread going on around here. And essentially, the financial sector strategy focuses specifically on consumer literacy and protection, but it also looks at access to financial services and products. So all those things converge, and that's really the crux of it, because I think if you look at the recent data from the financial inclusion survey that was last conducted in 2017, from a broad financial inclusion perspective, we are sitting at 78.1%. But we, at the same time, need to acknowledge the gaps that exist, especially between the urban area and the rural areas and the informal economy. So we are alive to those realities on the ground, and hence we need to do something about it.
In terms of where the world is going, how does the instant payment solution aid in modernizing Namibia's financial system? And I guess with that as well, how does it then differ from what we currently have in our national payment system?
Yeah.
And I guess what would be the key game changer there?
Yeah. I would say generally and overall, the instant payment solution will eventually revolutionize how me and you make payments on a day-to-day basis. But if I can maybe take the opportunity to highlight 3 key game changers from my perspective. The one is centered around the primary objective of the project, which is financial inclusion. And we are really taking a particular focus on the rural areas as well as the informal part of the economy. That is financial inclusion, but excuse me, practically what that means, and perhaps one of the key functionalities that this solution will bring that will help us practically practice or bring this to reality is offline capability. So people with limited to no internet connection will be able to facilitate payments. And I want to take the opportunity also to break down this concept of financial inclusion. Because I think usually we only look at it from an access point of view, you know, when you have a bank account, but it's more than that. In fact, usually financial inclusion, if you listen to the experts, they break it down in 3 dimensions. They talk about access, they talk about usage, and they talk about quality. And access is more like what is the proximity to financial service infrastructure, be it ATMs or branches and so forth. Or if it's digital financial services, what is the availability of that? And usage is more in terms of how actively are people making use of these financial services and products. And it also examines the frequencies and whether, you know, it's more about payments. Are we also sort of providing access to insurance, to lending? All those are financial services. And lastly, in terms of quality, it's looking at the sustainability of these financial services and transparency around fees and charges, terms associated to making use of some of these financial services. And I would like to say that the reality, unfortunately, is that we are not there yet in terms of our aspirations. And if I can maybe make 2 key examples. From an access point of view, on average, in rural areas, more than 40% of people need to travel more than 40 kilometers to be able to access some sort of financial service infrastructure, whether it's a bank, whether it's an ATM, and so forth. If you compare that to urban areas, it's about 1.6% of people who need to do that. So what that means essentially is that our current national payments industry is not providing equitable financial services and products. And what that means is that if you live in Windhoek, in Ospenplatz, just to make a hypothetical example, and I send you a wallet for $500, you could easily walk to an ATM and get out $500 that you can use for whatever needs that you have. But if you are in Aminus, the closest place for you to find such financial infrastructure is about 80 kilometers away. And it costs you, say, about $100 to get to that ATM. Never mind if it's not a wallet belonging to the bank, you know, that has such an ATM to the closest town. So you spend $200 just on transport. So essentially you only have $300. So unfortunately, because of the remote arrangements and the lack or the limitation in terms of financial services in those areas, the equitability is not in place. So really those are the things that we're trying to solve. Secondly, I think what we're also trying to do in terms of our Vision 2025 strategy from an NPS perspective, we are trying to create a cash-light society. So not cashless, cash-light, because we are trying to complement. We know that cash is king and it's probably going to be a long time until we see a cashless society. So we want to reduce the burden on cash because cash is expensive. Cash also comes with a number of risks that are associated to that from a safety perspective. Lastly, the third thing I would say is the interoperability that this instant payment would bring about. We have what we call closed loop and open loop systems, which is sort of, you could use that as a synonym for interoperability. So right now, for example, our card and EFT streams are interoperable, meaning that you can go with your F&B card, for example, and swipe at the Standard Bank POS machine, or go with your Bank Windhoek card and go withdraw money at a Nedbank ATM machine. But you cannot send a blue wallet to e-wallet, or you cannot go and withdraw your e-wallet from a standard bank machine. So this instant payment solution will bring about interoperability across all streams. It will not matter which bank you belong to. The flow of transactions and payments will be seamless. I would say those are probably the 3 critical game changers. Yeah.
And is that, do you foresee that then, I guess, the instant payment system becoming or rather competing with the existing bank services in those ways, or is it more of a complement to the existing systems?
It's definitely complementary. The aim is not to replace existing infrastructure. In fact, the Bank of Namibia is making this investment and availing this instant payment platform, and you can really look at it like a table that will just sit alongside the infrastructure that we already have in place, and this table essentially will allow banks, non-banks, fintechs to plug in and essentially avail these services to the end users. It's also important to note that the Bank of Namibia will not be participating directly. In other words, we will not be, providing services to the person on the street. We are simply availing this infrastructure. It's a public good, and we are doing that really to just bridge some of the gaps that we are seeing in our national payment system.
And now we're gearing up and preparing for the official launch. It's happening on the 26th of April. But by when is the instant payment platform officially envisioned to start operating? I mean, we're getting messages on the app saying you had me at offline. When are we operational, and what will be happening during and even after the launch?
Yeah, so we are envisioning that we'll have this go live in 2025. What we are launching on Friday is the project, which we will be collaborating with industry. What you can expect at the launch is essentially, this is a huge undertaking. As much as the Bank of Namibia is leading this initiative, there's a lot of collaboration happening, and we'll need to maintain that to successfully deliver the project. So there are key strategic partnerships that have been established, and what we'll be doing on Friday essentially is signing those agreements formally. It's sort of ceremonial. We'll also be our governor, as well as our line ministry, the Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises, they will be just calling to action, industry participation and so forth. And the governor will then also be sharing key sort of next steps to understand what will unfold. Like I said, this is the launch of a project, so there's still very much the implementation aspects that need to take place. But in a nutshell, we want to go live by 2025.
And for those that won't be able to attend in person, how can they form part of the upcoming launch?
The good news is that, we'll be live streaming this event, so you can be in any part of the world, and you'll be able to join into, I think, celebrating what is a key milestone for the entire nation. So those details in terms of the links will be on our various social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, but it will be live streamed, and we invite everybody to join us in just celebrating this very critical milestone for all of us.
And if you are listening now and you are excited, the future is coming a lot sooner than you expected, and we're looking forward to not just the launch, but the implementation and of literally the future, and not just the future for a few, but the future for everybody. And we appreciate you taking the time to speaking with us, and we are looking forward to the launch. Thank you so much, Valeria.
Thank you so much for having me.
And if you're listening and wondering who I am speaking to, that was the Bank of Namibia Director for Strategy, Projects and Transformation, and it's all about the instant payment solution.